वक्रतुण्डमहाकाय सूर्यकोटिसमप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Shri Matre Namaha. Namaste everyone. In today's session we are going to review the Nama Manikya Makuta Akara Janudvaya Virajita. The entire line of the shloka is one Nama and must be pronounced in full without any pause. Now, Vasinyadi Devatas are describing the namas in Shakti Kootam. Shakti Kootaikatapanna Katyatopaka Dharini. Kati Adoba Bhagam. That means the region which is below the hip. That is the namas, all the angas that are below the region of hips. That's the namas that we are reviewing. In the last session, we reviewed the thighs which are below the hips, the two thighs, the Uru Bhagam. Kamesha Jnata Saubhagya Mardavoru Dvayanvitha. Now, in this session, we are going to review the knees. So, from the thighs, the next angam is the knees. So, we are going to review the knees in this Nama. Let's first look at the components in this Nama. Manikya. Manikya means red rubies. Makuta Akara. Makutam refers to an ornament that is adorned in the head, like a hat or a topi. So, Makuta Akara. Makuta, in some Paata Vedas, it is also said as Mukutakaram. So, Manikya Makutakara Janudvaya Virajita is also correct. Manikya Makutakara Janudvaya Virajita is also correct. Both intend the same meaning. Janu. Janu means the knees. How many Janus are there? Dvaya. Dwayam means two. So there are two knees. Virajita, one who has illuminated, one who has radiant, shining knees. So the summary of this Nama at a high level is that Ambal has two knees, Janu Dvayam, and they are shining in red color because of this Manikya gemstones, and it appears as if it is covered with Makuta Akaram, an ornament. If you think of an ornament that is adorned in the knees, that is red in color, that looks like a cap. That is how the knees are, says this Nama. Makutakaram, Manikya Makutam. How can we visualize that? Makutam or Mukutam is like a hat that is covering the head. It is literally an ornament, or a topi like covering, if you will. If we see Krishna pictures, he has the Krishna Mukut. That is the Mukut aspect of it. So that is, can visualize these as Makuta Akara. So this Nama says, Sri Lalitambika's knees, the Jaanu Dwayam, are so red as if you had kept this Mukutakaram in each of these knees. Imagine taking this topi or this hat or this ornament and keeping it in both the knees. How would it be? It would be in red color, like a Manikya gemstone. So Manikya Makutakara Janudvaya Virajita. Like that, her knees are shining with these two mukuta like cap or topi that is adorned in her knees. Now the question comes, why are the knees red like Manikyam? Why do they say that? Why would our knees generally be red? When we get our knees rubbed in some hard surface, that is when we will get our knees red, right? Similar logic here. But the thing is that we are not talking about our knees. These are no ordinary knees that are described here. These are the knees of the Supreme Mother. So there must be some very special reason for those supreme knees, divine knees, to be like the cap of red rubies, Manikya Makutam. So how do we know that reason? To know that reason, we will seek the grace of Acharya in Soundarya Lahari. In Soundarya Lahari, Sloka 82, Acharya says, Sri Lalitambika's knees are red because pranati. Lalitambika does pranams. You keep doing pranams. Pranati patyuhu. Patyuhu. To whom are you doing pranams? She is doing pranams to her pati, Lord Sri Lalitambika repeatedly does namaskarams on the floor. See her when she does namaskarams on the floor to her pati. Patyuhu pranati. You're doing pranams to your pati. When you do pranams to your pati, not just once or twice, repeatedly. Pratyuhu pranam. Pat- Pranati, patyuhu. And because of that, what happened? Katinabhyam. Your knees became katinam. Katinam means very hard. So she is repeatedly doing namaskarams to her pati. Hence, her knees has become very hard, is the meaning conveyed by Acharya in this very divine sloka on Soundarya Lahari. There are very many specialities of this shloka. See, usually in all other Soundarya Lahari stories, there is only one major aspect conveyed, or one part or angam conveyed. Angam means a part, like Acharya would have taken eyes as one of the angams, as hands as one of the angams, as uh, ears as one of the angams, or you know, one part will be taken, one angam will be taken and described. But in this shloka, Acharya specifically describes two angas of Sri Lalitambika. He describes two parts that are the divine angas of Sri Lalitambika. In the Purva Bhagam of the shloka, this is the same shloka as in the previous session. Okay, let's recite this once so we know the shloka. It's the same shloka that we recited in the previous session, but the difference is that the Purva Bhagam of the shloka was recited in the previous session. This Nama, Manikya Makutakara Janudvaya Virajita, is covered in the Uttara Bhaga of this shloka. So this shloka has two angas. So this one described in the Purva Bhaga was the Uru. Uru is the thigh. That is what we saw in the previous shloka. In this shloka, Acharya is describing the Janu. Janu means knees. So Dwayam, the two thighs were described in the Uttara Bhaga of the shloka, and Purva Bhaga of the shloka, and the two knees are described in the Uttara Bhaga of the shloka. And the shloka goes like this. Karindranam shundan kanakakatali kandapatali ubabhyam urubhyam ubayamapi nirjitya bhavati सुवृताभ्यां पत्युः प्रणतिकठिनाभ्यां गिरिसुते विधिज्ञे जानुभ्यां विबुधकरिकुम्भद्वयमसि. So here Acharya described the Uru Dvayam. The Uru was like Karindran Sundan. That means it was like the thighs are like elephant's trunk. We saw that in the previous shloka. So, which is hard. The thighs, the elephant's trunks are so hard. Oh, but Jagannatha, your Uru, how are they, your thighs? They are very soft. That's what described in the previous shloka. Now, in this shloka, Acharya is talking about the Janu, the divine knees. See, for extraordinary upasakas like our Acharya, like Vasinyadi Devatas, Sri Lalitambika gives such very special darshan. These are not just physical aspects or angas that are being described. Both Lalita Sahasranama and Soundarya Lahari describe the Devi in the same way. That means Sri Lalitambika must have given darshan to our acharyas and the Devatas in a very, very special way. So, Acharya and Devatas have seen the goddess right before them, and through the shlokas and namas, they hold our hands and take us close to the Divine Mother. Such is the power of this nama, such is the power of the shloka. And it is said in Soundarya Lahari Upanyasams that such darshans bestows extraordinary blessings for us to hear and for us to recite, and it gives arogyam to the angas. See, they are describing these angas. Even when we hear or recite the glories of these angas, angas means part, the thighs, the knees, the hands, the legs, the eyes, the ears. Yeah, through these shlokas and these namas, when we recite these glories of Sri Lalitambika, it gives arogyam. Arogyam means it bestows physical health and very best mental health. So these are all intended upasana palans of taking us very close to the Devi. So in this shloka, that is the reason why we are reciting Soundarya Lahari, Lalita Sahasranamam, and all these great scriptures in our life. So in this shloka, the other speciality is that Acharya is contrasting Mrudu and Katinam. The Uru Bhagam, the thighs were very soft. We saw in the previous Nama. Kamesha Jnata Saubhagya Mardha Uru Dvayanvita. Mardha Uru means Mrudutvam. It was very soft. Soft thighs. That was the first aspect that was in the earliest shloka. The first two lines. In this part, which is in this Nama, Acharya is talking about the Janu. The Janu, how is the Janu? It's not soft. It's like completely contrasting the softness with the Katinam. Patyuhu pranati katinabhyam. Katinabhyam means your knees have become very, very hard. Why is the knee is becoming very, very hard? Because pranati patyuhu. You doing pranams to your pati. So that bhavam of knowing what Lord, what Goddess is doing is just brought before our eyes through these shlokas. Pranati patyuhu. You keep doing namaskarams all the time. So your knees are literally rubbing the floor when you do prostrations to Paramashiva, and hence that is the reason why your knees are very red, like Manikya ruby reds, the ruby gems. So it's like two knees are like so red in color because of your repeated prostration to Paramashiva. That means the speciality of namaskarams is intended here. See, when men do namaskarams, they do something called as Sashtanga Namaskaram. That means all their angas touch the floor. If you see the leg, the knees, the tummy, the chest, the head, the hands, everything touches the floor. They are literally flat on the floor. That's how men do namaskarams on the floor. Whereas when women do namaskarams, they do Pancha Anga Namaskarams. That is what is intended here. How women do namaskarams. When women do namaskarams, Pancha Anga, five parts of the body touches the floor. What are the five parts of the body? The two knees, which is related to our namas, the two knees touch the floor, the two hands touch the floor, and the tip of the forehead. Two knees, two hands, and tip of the forehead. Pancha Anga Namaskaras, Panchanga Namaskaras. Acharya highlights this aspect where the two knees of the goddess touches the floor repeatedly during namaskarams, and because of that it constantly scratches the surface, right? So she is doing pranati to her, pranams to her pati. So during that time, by doing the Panchanga Namaskarams, as part of the Panchanga Namaskarams, her two knees are constantly rubbing the floor. So it has become red like the Manikya stones. So Acharya here, in addition to the poetic excellence, Acharya highlights the Nitya Anushtanam. Nitya Anushtanam means what are the daily things that a woman must do, a stree must do the, to her husband. Anushtanam means like that which is done as her routines every day. So, Goddess is demonstrating that the Nitya Anushtanam is to do namaskarams, Panchanga Namaskaram to Pati. So, she by this aspect, by conveying this aspect of patihi pranam, Acharya is conveying the pativrata dharmam of a stree. the Pativrata, Ambal being the Mahapativrata, does repeated namaskarams to her Pati, Lord Parameshwara, and hence her knees are red, are like Manikya Makutam, like as if it's like red in color, because of the repeated namaskarams to her Pati. In addition to that, Acharya also uses two very special sambodhanams in this shloka. Sambodhanam means it is a way of addressing the Devi. In this shloka in Soundarya Lahari, Acharya addresses Devi by using three sambodhanams actually, Bhavati, Girisute and Vidighe. Of these three, two sambodhanams are specifically related to this Nama. What are the two sambodhanams? Sambodhanam means how we call our mother, how we call our divine mother, how on that specific moment when Acharya had the darshan of the goddess, how did he call the divine mother? Usually in various shlokas of Soundarya Lahari, Acharya worships Devi with various names. Like sometimes he has used Bhavani, Bhavani Tvam Dase. He says Janani. Uh, oh, Janani, Jaganmata. In some places, Acharya has used Bhagavati. In some places, Acharya has worshipped Ambal as Shive, Shive Shingaradra, Shive. So Bhavani, Janani, Bhagavati, Shive, these are all sambodhanams. That means when that specific aspect of the shloka comes to Acharya's darshan, when Acharya darshans Sri Lalitambika like that, Acharya uses different names to address Devi. That is called Sambodhanam. In this shloka, two very special Sambodhanams are used. And what are those? In one place, Acharya says Giri Sute. And then in other place, Acharya says Vidhi Gne. So let's look at the beauty of why Acharya used Girisute and Vidigne and how it relates to our Nama here. So, Giri Sute. What are we describing here? We are describing why the knees are red in color. The Jaanu Dvayam are like Manikya Makutam. They are red in color, red ruby like that. So, Acharya is using Giri Sute as one of the Sambodhanam. Sambodhanam means as a means of addressing her. Why Giri Sute? When describing the knees, the Janus, Giri Sute, Giri means mountain. How is the mountain? Mountains have hard rocks as surface. So, Giri Sute means daughter of mountain. How the daughter of mountain will be? She will also have rock-like surface in her knees. And hence the Sambodhanam. Sambodhanam means they are crisp one or two words, but they reflect extraordinary meanings exactly to that context of the darshan. See, Manikya Makutam, red ruby like knees, and Acharya is specifically using Patyuhu Pranati Katinabhyam. Your knees have become very, very Katinam. It has become red because you are repeatedly prostrating to Paramashiva, doing namaskarams to Paramashiva. Oh, Giri Sute, that is the Sambodhanam. Giri Sute means you are the daughter of the mountain. Mountain is usually very hard. Hence, it's natural that you, being the daughter of the mountain king Himavan, your knees are also rock like, and hence it is red. It has become red as Manikya Makutam. See, very aptly prostrations repeatedly harden the knees. So, and the knees has become hard as if it has a crown and red. Manikya Makutam. So, very aptly chosen Sambodhanam. That is the first Sambodhanam here, Giri Sute. The second Sambodhanam Acharya uses to address Devi is Vidigne. Vidigne Janubhyam Vibhuda Karikumbha Dvayamasi. Vidigne. Vidigne means Devi who knows all the Vidhis and Shastras. See, not only Devi knows all the Shastras, but she is also a living example. And as a living example, Devi practices doing namaskarams to Lord Parameshwara. She shows us, the Jivas, how to practice the Shastras. She follows the Shastras established by her own self, and hence she is called as Vidhi. What is the Shastra here? The Shastra here is that a Pativrata, a Stri, has to repeatedly do pranams to her pati. Patyuhu pranati katinabhyam. So, Ambal being the Vidigya who knows this rule, not only tells us that we have to do pranams to our pati, but in addition to that, she is also a living example that practices that, and hence her knees have become red like Manikya Makutam. So, in this very special Sloka in Soundarya Lahari, which corresponds to the very special Nama here in Lalita Sahasranama, Vasinyadi Devatas and Acharya bestows very special concepts of Pativrata Dharmam, Parameshwara Prityartham, by doing namaskarams to Parameshwara, by telling us what our Nitya Anushtanam must be, which is to prostrate to our Pati, and how to adhere to Shastras and know the Shastra Arthas, the meanings of the Shastras. All of that are very kindly given to us, bestowed to us by both Acharya and Vasinyadi Vagdevatas in this Nama, Manikya Makuta Akara Janudvaya Virajita. That is this Nama. As next steps with Acharya's blessings, let's review the next Nama in Sri Lalita Sahasranama. Loka Samasta Shukino Bhavantu. Thank you so much, everyone. Shri Matre Namaha.